Okay. You know, I can't really fathom that our accent is anything to be desired in the community of, you know, like, you know when you go to like maybe a nightclub or a party and you're trying to hit it off with another individual. I just can't imagine that a Midwestern accent is the accent that a female or male or whatever would want to hear from a person, you know? And I just don't think that it would sound that good at any point of the night, because I just can't imagine it's that enjoyable. Hey guys, and welcome to the second episode of our new series, So You Want. And today we're going to be talking about the boosted car. You love them, you hate them, but you mostly love them, and let's face it, they're probably one of the best sounding things you could possibly do to your car. So even if you're a naturally aspirated guy and you still get giddy when you hear the big old turbo spool up, let's take a trip back in time, shall we? So you went to your local car meet in the park, and when you were there, you were probably 16 with a Grand Am GT with cutoff mufflers, and you start walking around and you're checking out all the cars. So far, you're not impressed until you see, or probably hear, the SRT4 pulling up, the owner doing typical SRT4 owner things and revving the absolute shit out of it and flooring it all over because, I mean, it sounds really cool, and you don't really care about the car itself, but you're wondering what that beautiful exhaust note is actually coming from, because it sure as shit isn't coming from that Skittle. And it started to make you think, wow, that car can make really nice noises, even if it probably doesn't look the best. And you're like, I am going to do that too. So when people think of boosted cars, all they really think about is the cool noise that they make when they're spooling up. But anyone with a brain who would want to sound cool and have a more powerful vehicle, and some, I guess, maybe just want the noise, but I digress. The turboed engine is arguably one, if not the most popular modifications in the car community today, once you get past the fundamental starting point for most modifications. Turbocharging has been around for nearly as long as the internal combustion engine, but the interesting thing is that it would take years before anyone actually decided to put one in a passenger car's vehicle. In the early days, turbos were pretty dang big. They were used widely in aircraft engines, but the benefits of turbos couldn't be denied, and you bet your they were gonna find a way to fit these damn things under the hood of the car, which is pretty much just how anything works. Anything that's badass, let's stuff her in the engine. And if you really think about it, I think people actually put airplane engines into cars. If you try to sit and think about the first turboed cars around, you'll probably come up with some early European classics like the Saab 9.9 Turbo, the Porsche 930, that's a good one. But really, don't be fooled, because the first car to actually receive a turbocharged engine is the Oldsmobile Cutlass. That's right. In 1962, GM didn't think that its 3.5 liter V8 was pushing out enough horses, so they worked with Garrett to produce a Jetfire V8, which was available option package on the F85 Cutlass. Now, as well as trying anything new, this project didn't come without issues. Putting turbos on a mass market car made for some pretty interesting obstacles. GM's Jetfire engine had a compression ratio of 10.25 to 1, which means it was incredibly vulnerable to engine knock because, well, it just didn't have the engine management that cars do today. Who knew that when you put a big bitch on a little guy that it just doesn't really work together, you know what I mean? So somebody of that Oldsmobile had to think of something and think fast, and their solution was the turbo rocket fluid. They made a water meth kit. The turbo rocket fluid was just 1-to-1 ratio mixture of water and ethanol. So why didn't the engine catch on? Well, that's a good question, besides the fact that it was hyperistically extremely unreliable. Basically, it was just really pricey, and the $300 price tag was more than people could afford. And well, it wasn't the most reliable thing in the world, so fewer than 4,000 of them were ever sold. But Jetfire sounds like something I would name a RuneScape account, so I'm pretty ecstatic about the name. Even though the Jetfire didn't work, it didn't take long before the rest of the auto industry went, well, maybe we could do it better. And they did. They tried and then they did. Let's not get really into the details, but the second most mass-produced turbocharger became available, and this time it was an American 4x4, the International Harvester Scout. Woo! Hell yeah, brother. This bad boy had a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder and produced about 110 base horsepower, and it didn't need no water meth injection kit to work correctly, because this tractor. I'm just kidding. The engine actually did have a tendency to blow up and fail, but it turned out that they had developed a bigger naturally aspirated motor that could put out the same amount of power while using less fuel. It was like efficiency was better than a turbo. It's kind of weird. It was the early days. It was at the point when it seemed like mass-produced turbo cars were a lost cause, and because of that, the domestic auto market wouldn't see another turbocharged car for 10 years. Turns out the Americans did it first. They just didn't do that good of a job. After a few more failed attempts at a mass-produced turboed engine, the Porsche 911 stepped onto the scene in 1974, and not only that, but during its time, it was the fastest production car in the world, dubbed the Widowmaker. And the pair between exotic dream car and turbochargers launched to make this beautiful, just so lovely car that is just... The pair between exotic dream car and turbochargers launched the turbo's career into production vehicles from that point on. Just a few years later, in 1978, the Buick Regal began coming in with a turboed V6, which ended up leading to the Grand National. Fast forward a few more years, and in 1981, Maserati was just like, why not both? And decided to not slap one, but two turbos on them and named them the very, very creative name of Bi-Turbo. And although it wasn't really a great car by any means, it was still the very first twin-turboed passenger car. The theory behind it was that if you had two turbos, it would reduce the amount of turbo lag you had than just one. And well, that's not exactly what happened, but it made a ton of power comparably, so that's pretty neat. Porsche figured out shortly, because Porsche's Porsche, after that if you set up turbos in sequential format, that you can indeed reduce the lag effect. Over the past half-decade, turbos and turbocharged cars have changed considerably. Cue the cars of our, well, my childhood. You had the Cobalt SS, the SRT4, the WRX, the STI, the Eclipse, and well, I mean, you get the point. These cars were pretty all affordable, and when they came out, you could just see a ton of younger people getting their hands on them and started modifying so that they could, just so you know, leaving them, they didn't leave them stock because they're not a weenie. Now with turbocharged cars becoming common, that also grew the aftermarket community on that specific platform a ton. You can now upgrade your turbo kits from stock and make insane amounts of power. You can do all sorts of modifications to make them just practically insane. But we should probably also mention the fact that there are superchargers as well. So now what? I mean, when you really think about it, are turbos like out of the game? Absolutely not, because you have people coming up with electric motors that go with turbochargers and superchargers. You have people putting independent turbos on different wheels and all sorts of crazy shit. And then you have people that just put like 10 of them on a car and see how fast it could possibly go, because forced induction is the future. And if you don't think that, then you probably drive an American domestic car that's naturally aspirated that gets spanked every single time it runs up against a turbo 4-cylinder. I'm just kidding. I actually don't care. I like American V8s. I put one in my car one time, and even though it broke a lot, I did enjoy it. But that's really besides the point. Turbos are one of those things that when you're going into modifying your car, if it's naturally aspirated, or if you have a car that just came with turbos or bi-turbos, it's something that can be a lot of fun as long as you do it right. And if you go into modifying them, I wish you the best of luck. And if I had one tip to do with turbocharging a car, just one tip. If you don't follow the instructions, you will f***ing fail. I promise. You won't win. There's no way the first time you install a turbocharger, if you don't follow the instructions point for point, that it will end up anything close to what you want. I promise. I've done it before. So if you're not looking for turbos, but instead you're looking for something that's way easier to install that can make you look way cooler, wheels, tires, suspension, fitmentindustries.com. We have all the brands you could possibly imagine, like Accuair, Accuair, Airlift, and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's a sales pitch, okay? I just went into a rant on the last episode about Squarespace ads taking up like 70 seconds of a video. Anyway, we hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Alex from Fitment Industries. Let us know what you'd like to see next in the comment section, and we will see you later. Peace.